me to be sitting here and talking to y'all today is just so humbling. It's an honor. Like I said during my intro, I've always been a worker bee. I've been the one sitting around the table. That's where I find my joy. But to sit here and have people want to hear what I have to say is a little mind-boggling. So thank y'all. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. But to kind of go through, you have to know where you came from, right? So June 15th this year, I will be 50. So thank you.
It's the new 20.
Let me just tell you. I still feel 20 in my head.
Right?
And that's the way, that's what matters.
Right. Yeah. My knee and my hip might not tell me that. To go backwards in time, just to kind of know where you came from, to, you know, kind of describes your life. I was born in New York, and back in those days, I don't know if they didn't have ultrasounds or what the scoop was, but I don't know, did they back 50 years ago? I wasn't supposed to be here. So when I was born early. They took me. They don't do that anymore, you know, but they gave me a 10% chance.
Wow.
So
It's
wow.
good.
Wow.
My entire life, my parents have always said, "You're special." You make me cry. That's all good.
And they still are telling you that.
Exactly.
That's right. They sure are.
Yep.
I'm their miracle child. So it is, it's very emotional to be with your parents. I was just with them for Mother's Day, and to know 50 years later, we still get, you know, it makes me feel like there's something bigger for my life that I have to give back, because God's given me so much for my life. So sorry to be sappy. It's okay.
No, that's good. That's
Yeah.
real.
It's real.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the Italian roots. We cry a lot. Cards, commercials.
Yes. I'm not Italian. I know.
So, but that's just been the guiding light of my entire life. And what can I do to give back, to thank God and the world for my life. So I see that, and as you get older, I think that you look back and reflect more. As you're young, you're just going a million miles an hour, and you're not even really reflecting on what it all means, right? So fast forward, I grew up in Concord, North Carolina. We moved to North Carolina when I was about 2. I have a sister. She's 4.5 years older than me that I look up to dearly. They're in Greenville, North Carolina, but she went to Chapel Hill. So what do you think I did? Followed right behind her. Didn't even apply to another college. It was Carolina or bust. So worked really hard to get there. Lived in the Research Triangle area for many years. She met a man, moved to Greenville, North Carolina, and what did I do? Followed her. I lived there for about 8 years, and I met a guy from Gaston County that had gone back to school to get his finish his degree. So I fell in love and decided that I wanted to move to Gaston County, which was a huge leap of faith. To leave my sister, my anchor, the person that I looked up to, and she had 2 children at that point, so it was a big deal. But I can't explain it, but it was like, you're leaving, you're going. And that was bizarre for my family to say, okay, really? But I see now, again, I'll tell you in a second why that pull was to come here, and I just felt that inside voice telling me that's where you're supposed to be. Fast forward 2 years after moved here with him, I got the job with Sharp. We were a different company at that point with Charlotte Copy Data. but loved it, and unfortunately that relationship wasn't the one God wanted for me in my life. But because of my job with Sharp, and I'm in outside sales, I was at Stablis, where my husband now works, walking through the building 2 months after we broke up, and I was walking with the IT director. We were doing a walkthrough and passed him on his birthday. So I don't know if you're supposed to be superstitious if you have a strong faith, but he is. It was his birthday, and he said okay, and had changed his watch that day, which he thinks is a sign. So, which is crazy. He asked the IT manager at that time, who was the girl you were in the office with the other day? And he said, oh, that's Dara. He was like, she's single? He goes, actually she is. She's really nice.
Very single at that point.
Yeah. So he connected us, and we had a phone conversation over the weekend. That Monday we had our first lunch date, and a year later we were engaged. So that's all she wrote. But again, if it wasn't for me getting here, I never would have met the love of my life and have such a happy life. So that's one of my biggest drivers, is just following your heart and following where you feel like you're supposed to be, and prayer and all the people around you that support you and pray for you is so important. So yes, I came to Gaston County. I knew no one, well, except my fiance at the time. And it was a little scary, but through work, the Junior League of Gaston County was a customer. I called on them very soon after I moved here. I think it was probably in July. And the office manager at that time said, oh, you're new to the area. You've got a great group of ladies here. You should join them. So I did, and that was scary, going into a big group of women like you guys are very brave today to come and just jump right in. I think that's important. And that is how I met Andrea. We both were in the same provisional class and joined the Junior League together, and that was probably August of 2007.
Sounds right.
Or 2008.
2008.
2008, so it was a year after.
Yeah.
And we've been friends since, so served alongside each other. And if you don't know much about the Junior League, that organization was created to train leaders in the community, kind of what the Girl Scouts do for little kids. It's for 20 something to 40-year-old women, and they really do. They instill that drive to give back, which for me, it just brings me such joy, and I've been able to couple that with work. So that's kind of my introduction into this world that we're in now, as far as the nonprofit world and philanthropy and that type of thing. But as I grew with my work job, I became more involved in other things, and I'll go backwards. When I was in Greenville, I had a challenge in my career. Well, I was there for 8 years, but I'll step backwards a second to explain something. My sister and brother-in-law gave me an opportunity to work for them in outside sales. I'd never done it before. My brother-in-law trained me, poured himself into me, but one of his biggest things was, you've got to get involved in the community. Dara, you've got to get involved in the community. Your job will not sustain you. You have to give back. That's how you'll meet people. You will build a network. So he had me join the Rotary and the Chamber of Commerce, and I was an ambassador at the Chamber in Greenville. So I loved it. It just planted those seeds, right? So when I got here, I said, okay, worked for me there, let's just replicate, let's try it again. So, when I got the territory for, Gaston County, and that was, in 2008, I started coming to chamber events. So we were Gaston Regional Chamber at that time. And I was an ambassador. That's when I met Angie. We were ambassadors together. And that, if you don't know much about the ambassador program, I don't know right now where that stands with the GBA, but it's, you know, the group that goes and greets all of our new businesses for ribbon cuttings and helps with committee work when we have fundraisers that are going on, and goes out and gets sponsors or invites people to come. So it's really that person that is tied in to the different goings on in the organization, and it gives you chances to then have leadership opportunities. So within that, I also signed up for Leadership Gaston. So I did that in 2012, and Leadership Gaston, I don't know if y'all know a lot about Leadership Gaston. It's a really cool program. It's a accelerated program now. It used to be a 9-month program, and now it's
Condensed,
16
yeah.
weeks, 16 weeks, 8 weeks, what is
It's
it?
like 8 weeks, I think.
Is it 8 weeks?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's really, it's like, maybe
It's every other week for 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Did you
you.
do it?
I'm in it.
You're in it now?
I
Oh.
graduate on the 31st.
Woo! Yeah. And yeah, it's awesome. And you learn all kinds of different things about the community. So you learn about philanthropy, you learn about healthcare, you learn about government, you learn about business, you do communications day. So you've got all these different aspects of the community and what makes Gaston County special. We'll talk about Leadership Gaston after this, but that was really big for me. That really helped me get immersed into the county and meeting people and all that good stuff. So within the different programs of the chamber at that time, we had a program called Mount Holly Morning. So was a every other month breakfast. We had different leaders that would come in or talk about economic development or anything like that. So there was a call one day to the group to serve on their board. And I, again, listened to that little voice and said, okay, maybe this is what I should do. I don't know if they want me, you know, I'm not anybody, but, you know, that awful voice that we hear in our head that we need to tell to be quiet. But anyway, I did it. I mustered up the courage and I said, okay, I want to be a part of that board. And I talked to Angie about it. I think you were already on the board at that time.
Yeah, I came in 2010, and I don't know. That might have been the year that I was chair, or year before.
Year before. And anyway, that was probably the first time I had an opportunity for a larger leadership role within the chamber. And then Angie chaired. I think I might have chaired.
So I did 2 years, and you came the year after my second year.
So with that, that was a chapter of the Gaston Regional Chamber. So with that, it gave you a seat on the big board. So that's how I got the opportunity to serve on the big board. So again, my personality, I'm gonna jump right in, I'm gonna volunteer for everything, and yes, I'm the first one, you know, that's just, I guess, my fatal flaw. I can't say no. I was able to, then after my chair year, they asked me to serve on behalf of Sharp. So that whole process I see on how it really has not only shaped, I've talked a lot about my giving back in my volunteerism, but how that it intertwines and weaves into the business world. So all the people that I meet through these organizations, I meet out in the community, or it gives me an opportunity to talk to them about work. And it's not necessarily anything that you're intentionally doing, it's just like a natural progression. So, I think back to, I don't know if anybody, or all of y'all were at our conference. That Jennifer Davis talked about how we're all spaghetti as
Yep.
women.
Yep.
So how everything intertwines and lays over each other. That's kind of how my whole world has been. So hopefully hopefully y'all are following me, because I feel like spaghetti this morning. But that's kind of that story. So within the chamber board, probably, I think it was in, the Small Business Awards, do you remember that first
So
year?
that was before I came on staff here in 18.
Probably 17.
You had done it in year
2017, they asked me to chair the Small Business Awards. So that was my first opportunity after volunteering with all these other things for them to say, okay, we want you out front. And you talk about a challenge. Not the awards program itself, but I have a super duper fear of speaking in public. I'm talking about paralyzing fear. This is okay today, and I'm sitting down, and I've got my people like that I can look at, but y'all have no idea. You talk about some prayer to get me up in front of a group of 250 people and speak. It was just like, are you kidding me right now? Do you want me to do that?
And lots of oils.
And lots of oils. Yeah, lots of oils. But luckily, I had a co-chair that year. I don't know if y'all know Moses Newman. So Moses was my sidekick, and we got through it. And I guess we did a decent job, because they asked us to do it again the next year. So that was like the first step into the pool, or jump into the pool, so to speak. So from there, I think it was maybe 2 years later, they asked me to be the chair-elect for the board of directors. And again, I'll tell you how that comes about. It's a bunch of men, right? And I say, okay, you want me to do that? Seriously? Why? I don't understand. You know, again, the self-doubt that we all tell each other in our head. We don't tell each other, hopefully. We tell ourselves in our head, why me? But these men, I will tell you, really want more women in leadership roles. So the chair at that time sat me down and said, okay, we want new blood, we want new ideas, and we need women. You know, I was only the 7th female over 106 years to chair this organization. So we need more women around this table to step up and in our communities and in leadership. And I will tell you that it's intimidating. A lot of times I was sitting in boardrooms or, you know, meetings, and I was the only female. So it makes you feel like humbled, but it makes you feel like, do they really want to hear what I have to say? You know, it can be very intimidating. But I will tell you, after going through it and experience, they do. It's how you present yourself, I think, as well. I think that there's lots and lots of opportunities. I've been blessed to have the opportunity for people to ask me, but I've also had the opportunity to listen to that voice and step up and volunteer. So I think it's a little of both. But along the way, I've had people pull me and take me with them. So that has been something that I've really tried to do in my life, is look around and say, okay, this person, I think, as a potential, or they want to get involved. Come on, let's go. I want you to do this. And I think that we kind of need to, and it might not just be in a volunteer type thing, but at work too, new staff members or team members, and say, okay, I'll teach you. This is, you know, or let me teach you what not to do.
Just as important.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, so that's kind of just my philosophy on the way that I have, gone along, but after, I became chair, that year, we started having conversations, some high-level conversations with some, community leaders about the chamber and, where we wanted to go. And we really wanted to go with this organization towards more of a workforce development and economic development influence and a leader in the community. Not that our chamber wasn't doing great things with small business, medium, large business, and being the connector and networking and giving those opportunities, but what can we really do to move this community forward? And what can we do to help build it? Because y'all know, with all the construction going on, Gaston County is the place to be, right? So we saw that vision all those years ago. That was prior to COVID. We had the Greater Gaston Development Corporation at that time, or the GGDC, and the Gaston Regional Chamber. And we started that groundwork my chair year to merge the two to become who we are today, which is the Gaston Business Association. So it's an honor to be part of that process and and it helped me understand so much more of why this community is so important, why it's so special, and what we can do. And it all takes people coming together, great ideas, and the desire to want to jump in and do it, because it's going to take everybody in this community to get us where we want to be. So that's kind of that whole story within that. As far as other ways of giving back, I was asked to serve on the board of trustees for the SHIELD, as Andrea said, and that's the arts piece, science and art. The SHIELD is a really just a hidden gem in our community. It's an awesome place. So that has been a joy. And 4 years ago, I was asked to serve for the United Way. And I didn't know a whole lot about the United Way at that time. But I will tell you, the more that I have learned, and it's not a knock to the Chamber of Commerce and what we do for business, because I think that's very important, because that's the professional development, right? I think it's important to understand it's not just about work. It's not just about home and your family. It's how it all pulls together. But giving back to our community and those that are the least of these and those are in need has given me a deeper joy than I ever knew. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I'm a builder, I guess, at heart, but looking at how can we make this organization better? How can we, just like what Angie said about PWA, yeah, it was a cool thing that we did. We got together for a lunch once a month, or to get together, but what were we really getting out of it after we sat around and just had lunch together? Because you could do that with 5 girlfriends, right? Well, we want to show all of our females that we want to support each other and have a leadership component and have an inspiration. What can we do better together and bigger? So I think that's kind of, I guess, been my mantra, and how I have guided myself, as far as work. An overachiever. I think that's just, I think that's in your DNA. I don't think that's something that you can teach, although my parents have been fabulous examples to me, not only in the way that they live their life and our faith, but just being very, very strong work ethic people. I mean, they had us doing chores when we were little.
Yes.
I couldn't even swim in the pool till I weeded the beds and had enough weeds and seriously, y'all. I mean,
That's
my sister and I
okay.
were just like, are you kidding me right now? But it taught us, right? It taught us we had to clean the house, we had to do all those things. And I don't know if kids today, I feel like I'm like the old lady, these kids today. I don't know if they necessarily get that, but I think it's really, really, really important. Some kind of takeaways that I will say, it's really helped me excel in my own job. I try very, very hard to go the extra mile for my customers, for my family, for my friends. I don't always achieve that, but that's my desire in my heart, because I want others to be happy. And I feel like, you know, my dad always would tell us, you can't outgive God, and you can't outgive to others, because it always comes back to you tenfold. Even if that's not in your mind, it does. So I think, you know, kind of some takeaways would just be, just listen to your higher power, whatever that is in your heart. Find your tribe, find your mentors. I've had some fantastic mentors help me along the way and just grab me and say, you know, come on, you can do this. I see this in something that, in you, that you need to do this. Really, me? Yes, you. Like, you can do this. And not to downplay self-doubt. We all have it, but I think we need to try to make that voice in our heads go away, and know that you're special, you're awesome, and you can do it. Because if I can do it, y'all, I mean, I'm telling you, it's and it's still a struggle for me, but at least I will tell you, I think being vulnerable with your people, and you don't have to be the strongest person in the room. You can say, okay, all right, Andrea, I've got to get up and talk today. I'm not feeling it. Like, give me a pep talk. I can do this. I need you. And, you know, I tell a funny story. Angie's heard me tell her this a million times. It was a Good Morning Gaston. I think it was my chair year. It might have been.
It was your chair year.
Yeah.
Maybe your first or second one. It was early.
It was early. And it was just a Good Morning Gaston, which is one of the morning group, you know, probably 60 people, wasn't that big of a deal. We had a speaker that morning, but my job was to get up until the announcements. Okay, that sounds super easy, right? So I got up, and my team was there from work, and that might have been my trigger.
Front table.
Front table. So I get up, and all I had to do was thank people for coming, tell them what the upcoming 5-6 events were for the next month, and sit down. Like, it was not a big deal. So I get up there, the whole room got really bright. I started sweating. I thought I was gonna pass out and throw up all at the same time. And I saw Angie at the back of the room, and I said, and Angie Saunders, our membership director, is gonna come and tell us what's going on in the next month. And she saw my
And
face.
I was like, I am. in my head, I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, she's not got it right now.
And she came running up there, and she saved me, and I was
We just
shaking.
acted like that was part of the show.
Shaking like a leaf. But you gotta find your people that support you and have your back, and that is so meaningful. But bringing somebody, I talked about this a minute ago, bringing somebody along with you and helping them connect with others. That some of my friends have a joke that I need to be a recruiter and not in sales, because I love that. I love connecting people to to jobs that I hear of going on, but you know, through the 16 years that I've been in this community, and not just with work, but through the nonprofit work, you hear about a lot of things, and I love to ask questions. I'm a question fanatic, so I think that's huge, and that is another way to give back, is helping other people connect and find their way, or and then facing your challenges as opportunities. So my brother-in-law taught me that way back in my first sales job. He said, okay, and this was an outside sales for cellular, right? So at that time, texting had just come about, and people were just trying to get on the internet on their phones. So what happened on those days? We didn't have unlimited plans, right? And there was all kinds. I'd get phone calls from people calling me, oh my God, my kid just ran up a $300 cell phone bill, you know, with texting or whatever. So, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. But he said, every single challenge, look at it as an opportunity to sell something, or make it an opportunity to make somebody a Raven fan. That's huge, and it stuck with me, because it's true. If you can turn a bad situation into a positive one for somebody, we're always gonna have challenges, and no matter if it's work, family, friends, whatever. But if you can take that challenge, look at it as an opportunity, look at what can you do to turn it around and make it a positive one, that's, I think, the golden sauce. So being vulnerable, and just remember that you just can't outgive. So, and just, you know, trying to figure out that extra, that little extra. We're gonna talk about that here in a second. I'm gonna have Megan show a video. So within our company, we have a program. It's called 212. So it's going the extra degree. Have y'all ever heard of that? So that is our president's thing for like 10 years. But if you've never seen this video, I think it's really cool, and I'm gonna have her show it to you.
Love it. Says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. It is such a simple thing, but yeah. So that's what it is.
Thinking back at follow your heart, pray, be the guiding light to give back. That's what I took away. So thank you for that. And we have a few minutes, and the floor is open for questions and answers. You okay with that?
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
I don't know how you balance your job and all of these stuff. If that's, I don't know, long while now, and you just have some secret you have you.
Well, you know, I
Get it all
think
done.
in different phases of life, it's different. We don't have any children, so it's Patrick and I and our Yorkie. He's 15 and a half, bless him. You know, and that's a good question, and I will tell you that sometimes I probably haven't balanced too well. Prior to COVID, I was doing a lot of things at night, 3 or 4 days a week. Now at that time, he had gone back to Belmont Abbey to finish his, or get a second degree at night, so it really wasn't like I was taking away from family, and gave me something to do. So it was a business after hours, or it was a meeting or something like that. Then COVID, needle off the record, right, with all of us, or most of us, and how I really stepped back and said, okay, this probably isn't healthy for me to keep at this pace, because I was probably working 60 hours a week between work and all the volunteerism. You can't sustain that. Right, so for me, that was like the silver lining of COVID. So after, it's taken us all a while back to get back to normal in the normal world, but I think there's less of those things happening at night. I think everyone kind of realized that. So it was a great reset for me. And again, my life has changed a little bit. I'm not, as I did roll off the board in January for this organization, and our work with United Way and the Shield is mostly during the day. So I'm just very blessed with my work life that I can interweave the volunteerism. I don't have an 8-to-5 job where I'm in an office. So as long as I'm getting my sales and I'm exceeding my quotas for work, no one really cares. You know, what I'm doing, I'm not punching a clock, so to speak. So yeah, it does, but I'll tell you, probably since January, I've had a reset in my whole life. I'm like, okay, I'm turning 50, my body's hurting. I've got to start exercising, I've got to start doing something to balance. So I have been taking about an hour and a half every day during whatever different parts of the day, it just depends, and I walk with a girlfriend. So that has been huge for me, and a stress release. My husband's told me for years, you need to exercise. All this stress that you feel, and like your neck's always in knots because you're not doing something to release it, to get it out. So does that answer your question? Sort of.
A lot of the things that you do in the community are really still supporting your work too, because
True.
it's all the spaghetti.
It's all the spaghetti.
So
Yeah.
it's, when you're in a group like this, or the Rotary, or Shield, you're still making the connections in the community that help you in your, so it's finding those places to give back that you can get fulfillment from giving back, but also support some other area of your life, whether it's your work or your family or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't all have jobs that are flexible like that, right? So I would say if you have the desire in your heart to give back, figure out where could you carve out a little time. Is it maybe in the morning, and maybe there's a women's group or a mommy's morning out or something where you never know what that could be for you, but yeah.
Other questions?
Well, I just wanna add to what she's talked about today. I've had a kind of a front row seat to see, this actually happen with her, where, like, there'd be somebody she would meet at an event, and then sure enough, somewhere down the road, I mean, when you're in sales, you just wanna be top of mind, because you're not always gonna meet somebody at the right time. Same thing for whatever you do, but it's for, you wanna be the one that is thought about. And so, she might meet somebody at a breakfast meeting, well, they don't need any business equipment, but they may meet somebody in a week or 2 weeks that say, do you know anybody that sells X, Y, and Z? Oh, wow, by the way, I just met. Or they themselves, 2 months down the line, you know what, I've got a card from this lady, I really feel a connection, blah, blah, blah. Gaston County is very relationship based. They wanna feel like they're doing business with somebody they know, that they know their heart, they know they can depend on. People are very reluctant to recommend you unless they feel a connection with you. And so, Dara has that welcoming feeling, and so people feel connected, whether they know her or not, they feel like they do. And so, they're like, sure, I know somebody, you'll love working with this person. So I've been able to just have a front row seat to see time after time. You'll never believe who called me. You remember that guy that works for so-and-so and so-and-so 4 months ago at Good Morning Gas? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, he sent me this customer, or he called me in his business needs, blah, blah, blah. But one door opens the other. And so, while it takes time to give back, you also meet your own objectives that you have for your work or personal. And if I tried right now to think of the number of people that got their jobs, because Dara sees a lot of people, so people are like, by the way, do you know anybody's looking for such and such? She's on both ends of it. she'll have somebody call her up, you know, Dara, I work with you at such and such, we've had a layoff, let me know if you hear about anything. And then she's got the other one over here, do you know somebody that would be good at doing, and they'll do the description. She's taking the time to get to know people that she needs. You know, I got the perfect person for you. I mean, it's just, and so when you help somebody, they don't forget it. They do not forget it, whether you're answering a question, and I tell people, I don't have all the answers, but I know somebody that does. Well, that's all they wanna know.
Connector.
They wanna know who knows such and such, who knows? And so, that's why she says she asks questions. Well, that's the benefit of her asking questions, is she knows a lot of stuff. And so, when you help somebody, they don't forget you. They don't forget you, whether you're answering a question, to the point of the 212. Somebody asks you a question you don't know, you can say, oh man, I wish I could help you, but I don't know that. Well, that's not what she does. She said, you know, I'm not sure, let me check a few things and get back to you. She'll either get the answer, or she'll get the person that has the answer and connect you with that person. So, that's the 212. That's when it boils and makes steam. So, if we don't learn anything else today, think about that. The way you answer people, the way you treat people, the way you, not to mention, you just feel better yourself. You know, you don't feel like, man, I should have done something for that person. No, I did something for that person, you know. So, but it's just, that's how she lives her life.
Beautifully, and surround yourself with smart people who are more eloquent than you or smarter than you.
This is not so technical, cause I'm just a kindergarten teacher at heart. So,
Not just, that's a big job.
From the minute I met Dara, she has always made me feel like I am the most important person in the room. She always, it doesn't matter who's there, the president of the board, she acts like I am the president of the board. And I was just answering phones for GBA, and I want to do that to everybody I meet. I want everybody to feel like that, because that's it makes you feel confident. And to make that person feel like you have my undivided attention. When she came in and wanted the tea, I kept looking to see how much tea you had left, and I wanted to go get you some more, because I wanted you to feel important for being here. And so I just, you know, I feel like you have excelled in your hard get up in front of people. Like, hasn't that made you just grow? Because I've seen you at PWA events, and you're talking in front of everybody, and you say you're nervous. I'm just like, she's just like doing all this. I'm like, there's no way I could do that, because I have that fear. I was like sweating over here thinking, how am I gonna say this to her? So, I mean, that heart makes you grow. Personal.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and you can, because I was nervous to come in here and do this. You just have to push through it, but you kind of get a thrill from the push through. I think sometimes, you know, like.
If you don't throw up.
Yeah. Or pass out.
Or pass out.
Yeah, the oils do work. Yeah, but I just, you know, again, it goes back, I hear that little voice, what my brother-in-law would tell me, every challenge is an opportunity. Don't forget that. So.
That 212 was huge.
Because,
Mm-hmm.
but, and to your point about the 212, we witnessed that when I was working here, you know, when we had an issue with our equipment, how do we do such and such? She either talked us through it on the phone and a little bit of FaceTiming or whatever, or she had somebody here. And then, and I remember multiple times, do you have an extra such and such cartridge? We go look and see. Do you mind, so-and-so needs it, I can't get it to them quick enough. So she took the time to find that cartridge, they'd come pick it up, and they'd send us another one, but that person got to finish their project.
Yep.
Wasn't her fault, they didn't plan ahead and order.
And
Maybe so. No, I'm teasing, I'm teasing.
But that person that would call and she would get to go that extra mile,
Yeah.
they felt like the most important person.
Oh, they
and
thought they
were
was the only
just-
customer she had, I mean.
Yes.
And that's how she makes them feel.
I was the person that.
Yeah, it's almost like the baton in a,
Yeah.
in a race, when you're running
Yeah.
track,
Yeah.
that's what the baton, except it's a cartridge. But, I mean, that extra mile matters where she could say, well, you should have ordered it sooner. Maybe you
Right.
should
Can
have,
you
but
share
that's.
that video? If I could even watch that every Monday.
Yeah.
The 212.
Yeah, if I could even watch it every Monday.
And that little extra care and that extra attention, I know for us at our office, somebody rings our bell and they're in crisis. So we have the opportunity to say, here's your phone number, call. But if we know that there's a resource, that's that little extra. Let me pick up the phone before I send you to Salvation Army, make sure they're open, someone's gonna receive you, let me walk you through. That goes miles.
And then you're coming.
They know you're coming. So in that moment, what I'm gonna take away is, think about that. What is the little extra you can do right there in the moment for whoever you're working with?
Right.
Whether it's someone on your team, someone ringing our bell, whether they're in crisis or not, we all have that capability to do that little extra. And to Jenny's point, you feel like, okay, they're focusing on me right now. And that is very powerful. And they
That's
came-
212.
Yes, that's 212.
And we can do that in our personal life
Yes.
too.
Oh,
Yes.
100%.
You know, with our families, with our
100%.
kids, with our, loved ones, no matter where they are. I
Yeah.
think that's, we get so caught up sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
You know, even, my parents are aging,
It's
so,
hard.
yes, just that little text message.
Yeah.
I find it easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
Flip the phone over or leave it in.
Yeah.
Right,
Or the
It's
note in
so
the
true.
lunchbox.
Yes,
Right?
100%, yes.
Yeah.
And I, to her point about finding someone that you can confide in, there are those times when you're just ready to absolutely blow the top off of your head. And if you have somebody that you trust to discuss things with, just say, tell me if I'm wrong. And, I'm about to explode over this. And they're like, okay, in that moment, you've been either hurt or made mad or whatever. And somebody says, wait a minute, there's a whole other side over here. But you have to know that you've got somebody that will be that person that won't just tell you what you wanna hear. That's all around you. People wanna do that. It's that one true person that says what you need to hear at that moment. Look, get off your high horse, this is not a big deal. Or you have every right, but this is how you need to handle it. Sit down and take a deep breath first, But you have to have that kind of a girlfriend in your life, and that's how Dara is. She will not tell me what I wanna hear. She will tell me what I need to hear. And that's important. That's important. It's, and that's the way in her leadership, whether committees, boards, or whatever, do not look for her to put a check mark by something.
Yep.
Because she's gonna tell you what you need to hear
And
there
ask
too.
questions.
Yes. Ask questions, a lot of questions.
She'll ask questions before she makes up her mind, so she's knowledgeable. But we have to do that in life, we have to do our research, and if you're gonna serve on a committee or whatever, serve with all your heart, do your research. You might not be the popular person in the room, but you know what, you put forth your effort, and you said what was on your heart, and at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to do when you serve, is to do it with all your heart. 212. 212.
I like it.
I love it.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Made me feel special today.
Well, you are special.
Very good. Megan, any plugs or any announcements you wanna make before we disperse?
No, just make sure to keep up with our Facebook and all of in our newsletter. I'm sure we'll put a shout out to all y'all that came in our newsletter next week, so make sure we'll have the video and
Oh,
Can we capture a picture?
Let's get
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
all